Welcome everybody, welcome back to Homestead Heart. And today you all, I am outside, still getting some things done outside. They're still at our house working to resolve some plumbing issues that we have been having, some very severe, unbeknownst to us. We didn't even realize. So Mrs. Puff is back. Mrs. Puff is back. And girl, ain't nobody got time to be playing with you. So, anywho, you all, let me get her because I don't want her to claw her way up my shirt. Ow! Get down! Let go! Okay, so, as I was saying, no ma'am. So, here she comes. So, as I was saying, I'm going to have to step away from the table so she don't be trying to jump on me. But anyway, you all, you saw the title of the video, so I want to go ahead and get right into it because I did receive some of your questions via email, and I did see some of the comments as well, and that's what I want to go over with you all today. You know, the where, the when, and the how when it comes to seed starting certain crops. Not everything, but just certain crops, okay? Now remember, I'm in zone 8. I'm here in Georgia, so I'm in zone 8. And so if you are in my area or even zone 7, 6, 5 and whatnot, this is very important for you all, okay? Now, talking about seed starting, you know, why didn't my tomato seeds come up when I planted them outside? You know, or why didn't my Brussels sprout seeds come up and I planted them outside, you know, before the last frost and all of that? Why didn't they come up? So you all, it's not that you can't plant brassicas outside. It's not that you can't plant plants from the nightshade family outside, like eggplant or tomatoes. It's not that you can't. And it's not that you cannot plant things like watermelon, direct seeding, those things outside. It's not that you can't do that. You can. But you have to consider your climate. You have to consider like the zone that you're growing in. You have to take into consideration how much time you have for that for that seed to actually germinate, then develop to maturity in order for you to get a harvest from it. You have to take all of that time into consideration. And another thing is that, you know, you don't want to plant seeds outside before, ow, before your average last frost, ow, date. Girl, go play with the rest of them. Before your average last frost date, they may not germinate at all. They may get rained on, frozen, and then just rot in the ground. You know, you never know. So you want to keep those things in mind when you're starting seeds. So for things like brassicas, tomatoes, peppers, you know, peppers take a very long time to germinate, right? Peppers and a few others that I think I've mentioned already, tomatoes, eggplant, and whatnot. This girl. Yeah, go play. See, they want to play with you. Go play with them. I can't play with you right now. But, you know, things, seeds like that, you all, you really want to start them in trays, either like so. We got these things did not last a whole year. We got them from Tractor Supply. Y'all, look at this. I know I'm digressing, but look at this. Look at how they all done ate up and stuff, how they breaking off. I think the concept was wonderful with the little push-up things in the bottom that easily, but I think the material needs to be made a little bit stronger in order for this to hold up, because they were quite expensive to say that they fallen apart already, okay? But any case, these are my trays. Get down from here, Mrs. Puff. I know you want to be next to me. I got it. Now these are trays that I've had for several years that I got from Bootstrap Farmer. And the reason why I'm gonna suggest starting your seeds in trays like this indoors, because number one, you can control the temperature, right? So you don't have to worry about them freezing outside. You can also control the lighting on them. You know, you can make sure that they all germinate by giving them pretty good conditions under which they can germinate. You know, some people use a heating mat, you know, for their seeds to help them to germinate. And of course you cover them to help build up humidity, and that also helps them to germinate faster. And you have neither of those when you actually put them outside, direct sowing them, especially this time of year, January, February. You really want to be careful with that, because they may or may not germinate. And then of course, if they do germinate, you run the risk of them freezing and then dying off. So it's best to keep them inside until all danger of frost is past. Give them an opportunity to grow and get a little stronger. And then afterwards, you take your little transplants that you'll take out of your seed starting trays, and you can pop those directly into the ground where you want them to grow. So this is why we start things like brassicas, tomatoes, and peppers. We start those things indoors early, okay? Onions, we start them early. And then, because some people direct seed onion seeds, right? Either in the late summer or very early fall. Some people direct sow onion seeds and they have pretty good success, and some don't. It just depends on the conditions, you know, under which you're growing them, right? So I would just say, you all, when it comes to certain types of crops, it's best to start them indoors. Now, even for me, I started my corn in trays, like in, not these are 72 cells. I didn't start them in these. I actually started them in 128s, okay? And the reason why I chose to start them in 128s is because I can, number one, get 128 seeds in there, right? But the problem for me with planting corn, direct sowing it, is that we have like a major ant problem here. I mean, all over the farm, so many of them. You just can't get rid of them. You have to literally share the ground with them, right? So I realized that, like, once we watered the seed, you know, we soak our corn seeds overnight before we plant them in the ground, when we were planting them in the ground. But we realized that once we put them in the ground, the ants would literally come and start eating them. And we would wonder why we would have 2 to germinate and little corn would sprout up in here, and then we'll skip 5 or 6 places and there'll be 1 or 2 more, you know. And we realized it's because the ants were just eating them up before they even had a chance. So we start putting them in the 128 cells, and of course our soil was already ready. And that way, when it was actually time, like, you know, we would give them a couple of weeks in these, because remember, corn germinates like really fast. And then when they came up, you know, they would probably be about maybe 3 inches or so above the soil line. And that's when we would take them. And I think you all have seen us do that. And we would just take them and we would pop them in the ground that way. And also we were able to see exactly what we had too. So we would plant more than enough. If we had too many, fine, but at least we made sure we had enough so that every space would be covered when it came to you know, making sure we got a good stand, right? Now, last season when we tried to direct seed and all of that, y'all, that was just a disaster. So it failed again, because it is a lot of work to transplant the corn. And I know some people say corn don't like to be transplanted, but I'm here to tell you that when we transplanted our corn and we put it in our smaller garden, we had a huge corn harvest that year. And then when we tried to direct sow it, y'all, it just didn't work out, you know. Now, the one thing I'm going to tell you, if you do decide to do corn that way, Do not plant it until you're ready to transplant it, okay? The day you plant it, you need to be ready to transplant it. That means your beds need to be ready, because the corn is not going to be in these trays long. They won't be in there long at all. They're going to pop up in no time. And then that sun is going to hit them, and they're going to be 2 or 3 inches, seem like overnight. So you got to be ready to transplant them when you plant them, okay? But your brassicas and peppers and things that take a little while, starting them in the seed starting trays, it makes a big difference, you know, when it comes to making sure they all germinate, and then making sure also that you get the amount of crops that you were hoping for, so that you're not, you know, just putting in a seed and hoping that it germinates. No, you want to see that, okay? Because remember, your growing season is going to determine how long from germination to date of maturity, how long you have before your first frost comes, or before it gets too hot and certain crops ain't gonna grow in the heat. Your brassicas, they don't like the heat. So you have to take that into consideration as well. Now, another thing I wanted to talk to you all about is, if you do decide to start tomatoes in something like this, in 128s or 72s or even the 50s. These are my little 50 cells right here. If you decide to start them in the 50s or in the 6-packs that I have back there, one thing you want to keep in mind is that tomatoes, be prepared. Tomatoes, eggplant, be prepared to up pot them, okay? And what I always advise you all when it comes to tomatoes, I always just advise using solo cups. You know, if you got the room for solo cups, I always just advise using solo cups, okay? Because one thing you can do with the solo cups, whether they be the really big ones or the ones I just call the medium-sized solos, girl, your claws hurt now. So using the solo cups, it allows you to have all the room you need for that little tomato to grow. And I'm going to show you this. I don't have a solo cup, but I do have one of these. Let me show you this. So we're just going to say this is a solo cup, okay? Now, one of the things that you could do is, I like to, if I plant it in a solo cup, I like to fill it maybe like 3/4 of the way when I start my seedling. And then, of course, you want to have it under a light. But as that tomato seedling grows, or your little eggplant grows or whatever, as it grows, if you got it under the light, if you're trying to get a good firm stem on your tomato, you got to remember that crops in the nightshade family, they look like they have all this little fuzzy hairs all up and down the stem, right? And that's just simply because that stem has the ability, as high as you plant it, that stem has the ability to put out new roots, okay? So as long as you have a solo cup planted 3/4 of the way, the soil 3/4 of the way of the pot, you fill that. And then you plant your seed, and as your seedling goes, you can continue to add soil to backfill it, and that'll just give you more roots before you actually put it in the ground. But solo cups, medium, or, girl, she is straight clowning today. You out. She trying. You is straight clowning today, girl. Mrs. Puff. Go play with your siblings. But you can really benefit from planting those tomatoes deep and allowing them to get as many roots possible. And even when you take it out to transplant it into the soil, what I like to do is I will still take mine and I will literally bury it in the ground up to those leaves, the true leaves, okay? You don't transplant, you're gonna get those, what I call starter leaves, once they emerge from the seed, but you're looking for true leaves, okay? So you'll just bury it up to the actual true leaves in the ground, and everything beneath it is gonna make for a very strong tomato plant. Trust and believe me when I tell you. Well, y'all have seen our tomato plants. Some of them get up to 6.5 feet tall. We have to cut them. But that's just something to consider as well. All right. Now, gosh, that's the solo cup thing. So I hope I answered those questions about why, if you're direct sowing them outside, if they're not germinating, those could be some of the reasons why they're not germinating. Okay. But I think I have pretty much covered that. You just want to make sure you put the lights on them. Now, I also, when it comes to the light, I turn the lights on my seedlings even before they've emerged. I turn them on before, because all it'll take is a day or two of me not paying attention, and then I come and check my seedlings, and they have emerged, and they have grown an inch or two, and the little stem is so thin and so skinny because it's reaching for light that isn't there. So what I like to do is I like to turn the lights on early, so when they emerge, it's just like when you direct sow a squash seed in the ground. You know, when it emerges, the light is there. It's waiting for it, right? Instead of it waiting for the light is waiting for it. So I do that with my seedlings. Even before they germinate, I would rather that the light is there ready for them than for them to emerge and be in the dark, so to speak, you know. So that has always been successful, I would say. So you all, but that's why I turn my lights on my seedlings even before they emerge, right? So, and then of course, as they grow, you just step the light up an inch or two so that the seedlings don't have to reach so far for the light. You don't want that. All right. So you all, I think that has covered my topic today of why it is best to start certain seeds indoors. Okay. Certain seeds, it's best to start them indoors, or it's best to start them in trays, even if it's not indoors, but in a greenhouse. Okay. Now, things like watermelon and stuff, you can direct sow them, you know, as long as the soil is workable, or as long as there's no frost, you can do that. You can start them indoors. But I love starting them in cups like these, or solo cups. I love doing that because, once again, I could see what I'm working with right away. And then when it's time for me to transplant, you know I got good, strong, healthy watermelon. But it just depends on, like, you know, for some seeds, it depends on the workload. You know, it depends on if you don't mind the extra work of going through, taking the transplant out, digging a hole and burying it in the ground, you know, versus just moving the soil back with a finger, dropping a couple of seeds in. You know, it's up to you. But I like doing it that way because I'm pretty positive that my crops will do well, or at least I'll give them the best chance of doing well. Now, I don't do that with everything. You know, there's certain things like squash and the cushaw, pumpkin, things like that. I just put the seeds in the ground, and they're gonna be okay. Okra too. I drop okra seeds in the ground. They be okay. Now, when I planted the okra, that was I can't think of the name of it, but when I planted it, direct sowed it last year, is what it's called for everybody that's new. You know, when you direct sow something, that means you're putting the seed directly in the ground versus when you are starting it indoors in trays. Okay, so that's the difference. If you were new to this and you're wondering, okay, so, but there's some things like I just mentioned that I do direct sow. But that particular okra seed that I grew last year, it was probably a bad idea to direct sow that particular seed. And so I'm hoping that this year what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put that specific okra seed, I can't think of the name of that seed, but it was gifted to us. And I mean, he sent us a lot of seeds, but he really sent us the detailed information about this particular okra seed, and I can't think of the name right now. And I said that was going to be the only variety that I planted last year, which it was, but I didn't get any to come up, right? Except for one. And it didn't really produce a lot of okra. I think I got like 2 or 3 pods off of it. But, and maybe I planted it, no, I ain't gonna say I planted it too late. But in any case, I think that particular seed, I am gonna start it in containers because I want to baby it, because I want to try that. That Yamata cream watermelon that I'm down to the last few seeds that I'm hoping that'll work. Somebody sent me a message about the Yamata silver. That's a different watermelon. The silver is different from the cream, okay? The silver is kind of a palish color, you know, whereas the Yamata cream was like this deep yellowy citrusy looking, fruity looking melon. Okay, the colors are different, but I'm down to my last 3 or 4 seeds for the Yamata cream. All right, y'all, so I'm going to end this video. I hope my little kitty didn't just fall in that water in the pool. We'll see. But y'all, that's going to do it. I hope I answered your questions. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and give our video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any videos that we upload to our channel. Thank y'all again for watching Homestead Heart. Peace and blessings, y'all. I'm going to see y'all in the next video.